Let's get into it.
Yeah, let's get into it. Yep.
Welcome to the ArcFluence Podcast, where we talk about how design impacts the way we live, work, and invest. I'm Nick Karakaian, your host, and with me, as usual, and gratefully, Nino Samardzic and Paul Fatkins.
And today we get a special guest as well, right?
We do have a special guest.
I'm thinking of the knights who say "ni" and the little shrubbery. So I'm excited about today's talk for sure.
No, we had it already, and it's actually a lot of fun. It's one of those things that's sometimes overlooked when you're thinking about designing your dream home. You don't think about the interior design, although that's probably a little more prominent than thinking about landscaping.
Yes.
Which is our topic today. So Fred from Inspired Spaces, landscaping design, is going to be with us here. And with that said, let's get into it.
Let's get into it.
Welcome to the show, Fred. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you guys?
Fantastic. We're really excited to have you here. I think this is the first time you're seeing Paul. You guys haven't met in person, right?
Yeah. Only email correspondence. So
You missed out on all the fun. You got to come out to these job sites.
Well, yeah. I know. Well, you worked with Fred on your house, so
That's true.
yeah.
Oh,
we've,
cool.
We've done a few projects together at this point.
What, on a beach or?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Not an actual beach, but on Beach Street.
Yeah, Beach Street. Yeah.
Fred, we got to do something on a beach.
Yeah.
Great.
And then you haven't met Nino either. He's our other partner with ArcFluence here.
Good to meet you.
And
Same here.
Kind of just a preface. We love architecture and we focus on architecture, and
I was gonna say I hope so. We're an architecture firm.
and
We're all architects.
we find other people who are experts in related industries like landscape architecture, landscape design, interior design, and we work at engineers, etc. And we work with them directly, so we can focus on architecture.
Yeah. I have to admit, actually, I know that we're gonna actually talk to Fred today, and he's a landscape designer. So I have to say one thing: like a landscape design, I'm complete tabula rasa for it.
Yes.
Honestly,
Yes.
I lack so much knowledge about the landscaping how landscaping is
hopefully
important.
you'll learn something today.
Yeah.
Honestly, yeah.
I think so. I know it's a specialty, and I know it takes
is.
a lot of experience to do it well.
Well, I'm
Yeah.
gonna let Fred do most of the talking here, hopefully.
Exactly,
but
yeah.
He breaks down the species, the hierarchy of plants, how they're
Yes.
gonna grow,
Yeah.
how they're gonna grow and into the space. Yeah,
Cool.
it's great.
It's
Fred,
gonna be exciting.
Fred, why don't you first of all, how long have you been doing this, and why don't you just tell us a little bit about your journey and how you got to the point you are now, which is designing luxury homes, high-end commercial landscape design, some really cool projects.
Sure. So I started my company in 2009, but I've been landscaping for a lot longer than that. My father graduated from Ohio State in I think 1975 and started his landscape company in 1978, which was the year I was born. And so all growing up, that's all we've ever done. Watering plants for a nickel a piece, when I was a kid, to being a gopher at 13 years old on job sites, and then just every summer working with my father in high school. I decided when I went to college that I wasn't going to do landscape. And then I found out quickly that that's what I truly enjoyed doing. So in college, that's what I studied, landscape design, and then continued to work with my dad. And then again in 2009, went out on my own. And now my dad is in retirement, and he sometimes works for me. So
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's great. So that puts you at if you've been doing it since you were concepted.
Exactly, almost.
Since a kid,
yeah, over
basically.
40 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So starting the business in 2009 you actually took over from your father in 2009, you said? That was a pretty rough time to start.
Well, so actually I didn't take over for my father. My wife and I were having our second child, and I wanted to make sure that I got to spend time with my family just like my dad got to spend time with his.
That is adorable. Yeah.
And so it was a hard split. However, it was an important split at the time because I wanted to make sure I had all that time, with my additional time with my family, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense.
It was a hard time because it was right after the recession.
Yeah, right after the recession. That's why I'm asking you.
Now, when you started, you were essentially on your own. You didn't have any employees yet. What did that journey look like?
Well, I actually had one guy come over with me. He was a friend of mine that was working, and then it was a slow process to hire people, right? It was just one man in a truck at that point. Now, I did have some clients from, doing design work in the past with my dad, and some of those were specifically working with me at the time. So I did have a few clients to start, and then just grew from there.
No, that's good.
So fast forward to today. Now you're designing lighting, water systems. I mean, these elaborate setups, hardscapes, decks, patios. How big is your team today?
So right now, currently today, we have 15 people, two of which are subs and part-time. Everybody else is full-time. So today we're running about 3 to 4 jobs at a time, all, in that high-end residential, typically.
So you are actually designing, landscaping, maintaining. Oh, I mean, can you just explain all the services that you're providing, guys?
Sure. Well, first it starts with the design typically. So we start with that design process with our homeowners, and then from there we go into estimating, selecting products and that sort of thing. And then if we get in contract for the build, we do all the installation. And whatever we don't do in house, I have a lot of subs that can do that work, especially like electrical, certified electricians, gas guys, plumbers and that sort of thing.
Yeah, plumbing's for irrigation systems and stuff.
We do have an irrigation company that we work directly with. It's not something that I enjoy doing, so we usually
you sub it.
Guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you doing all of your stuff just like in like a plan essentially, or are you doing like 3D views as well?
We are doing 3D views. Shelly, who I think you've met in our office, actually just put together one for a local business, their zinc manufacturing.
Yeah.
So she did.
I was gonna say, I know sometimes for us, it's like the client will say, "Oh, I just have no idea what this is gonna look like when we give them a plan or a section or something like that." So it's like they have to have that 3D view. I don't know if you've heard similar things like in landscape design.
I have, and I've heard even some HOAs were requiring it.
Yeah. Yep. It's becoming more common. Well, I mean, people are starting to be able to afford it now. I mean, I think there were a lot of, when I was in New York City, like everyone could afford everything, right?
Yeah.
We did luxury apartments and we had specialty items for everything. When I first moved to Ohio 8 years ago or so, there wasn't, at least I didn't know the right people, but there wasn't, from my perspective, there wasn't a big market where people are willing to pay for these extra services. They kind of wanted the bare minimum. They wanted to there are a lot of DIYers, and I feel like Columbus is now starting to get a little bit more sophisticated.
Oh yeah.
They're wanting these services by professionals, and we're seeing a lot more of it. More of these requests, at least. I mean, we're getting more requests for rentals as well. So, Fred, let's continue your journey. What are some of what's the typical process you have with your clients? Somebody calls you, they want an incredible landscape design for their luxury home. What do we do? Where do we start? Sure. Well, one of the things with us, most of our clients are referrals. Almost all of them, I would say probably 90%. We very rarely get, cold calls. So they already have an idea of what we do and who we are, which is nice because we're not selling ourselves. We're trying to provide a service to do cool projects for people. Really is what it comes down to. So typically we'll have, a site meeting, talk about exactly what they want, and then talk about how to build that and what that looks like. So if it's, hey, we want a landscape design, then we start with that process and talk about the fees associated with that. And then typically, if we're doing the design, yes, they can have that bid out by other companies. That's why they're purchasing it. But a lot of times we end up estimating that out and giving them a proposal of how to do their project, maybe in phases, and then what that would look like as well. Great. Once they decide that they like you and they're excited about the process, how do you go through, for someone like Nino who knows nothing about landscaping?
Nothing.
But he wants colors in spring, summer, fall, maybe even winter. How does that conversation go? How do you educate your clients, and what does that look like typically? Well, so typically the first thing I ask them was, what's your inspiration for the project? And that's why we named the company Inspired Spaces Landscape and Design. Because it's really about what inspires them and what
they want to get out of that project. So if it's an outdoor patio project that they want seasonal color and an outdoor kitchen, those are things that I will help walk them through as that process unfolds. A lot of times people will come to me with, a lot of information. I ask for Pinterest pages. If they have a house, they can send me. So just gathering as much information as possible from them. And then as we put that build together, we typically will have a page at the end that it has all the plants on it, and then maybe some inspirational pictures and that sort of thing that relate to their project.
So if I bring like a castle with an incredible English garden and all these people that are working the garden, and I want to do this budget for $20,000, what do you tell me?
Nick, of course, wants the castle.
You're gonna get 2 shrubs. Yeah. That's it.
Basically, that process is phased. You're not gonna be able to do it for that, but you certainly could do it in time and through phases. And that's what typically happens. More so on these larger projects where it's a full-scale master plan. We'll implement certain pieces of the project, and then as the years unfold, some of that may change based on their use and their wants and their needs, but we'll try and get that accomplished over time.
So when you're executing your project, does the time of the year play the crucial role when you guys actually doing the landscaping installation? They used to say like the early spring, late fall are the best a time to do some landscaping. How you guys dealing if you have to install the job or I'm gonna call that landscape it, to landscape the job in a weird period of year, I don't know, like a winter or hot spring or hot summer or something like that. How you actually dealing in these situations?
So that's a great question. Most of the projects that we're doing are larger projects that typically take several months. Not all of our projects are that way, but most of them are. So what we'll try and do is schedule and time it so that we're planting at the appropriate time and doing the construction, appropriate time. So for instance, over the winter here, we've been working on a plan that has, 3 multi-level patios with a 3-season room, fencing, landscape lighting, built-in grill, that sort of thing. And so we've been working on that portion of the construction portion, all the stuff that needs permitting and stuff like that, and trying to get through that portion before we get into planting. We're about a month away from planting the job, which is going to be perfect. But to answer your question, best time to plant is probably in the fall, and I would say second would be early spring.
I probably have a tons of questions. It was what are your deliverables? When you actually you gather the information from the client. You have a vision, they have a vision, they send you some images from Pinterest, which I'm a huge Pinterest guy too, probably have a huge collection of the images and stuff that I'm kind of envisioning in my head. So you guys, you gather the information from the client. What is going to be the next step?
So typically, after we receive that information, we've already done our intake through the first meeting. If they give us approval, we'll typically either schedule a time to take all our measurements on site to get that, get everything exact as we can, maybe do some elevations as needed, and then take that information back, and then we'll start the process. And if we have questions along the way, because our design process usually takes 2 weeks from the initial meeting once we get the approval, right? Because we're working on other things, we're gathering information, gathering samples. But from there, if we have any questions, we'll typically reach out through email or maybe another site visit. And then once we go to present the plan, we like to do that in person whenever possible. Sometimes we use, Meetup or whatever, but we like to present that along with some of the material samples. I've got material samples sitting here on my desk for a project that's upcoming.
Yeah.
Now, most of your projects are local, am I correct? Columbus area?
Most of, I would say, the bulk of our projects are local. However, we've done some Airbnbs down in Hawking. We have a potential project in Athens. We have another one that's in Canton that's going to start here in a few weeks. We've done some in Springfield and Dayton area. So we're mostly working in Central Ohio, but we do venture out.
Yeah, I know we chatted about doing a potential project in California together. We're still waiting to see if that one goes through, but I guess I really enjoyed talking with you when we were on. We did a big project together, and I believe the implementing. I think it's actually going to happen this fall. This has been going on for about a year. Our large custom lodge that we did in Westerville, And I love having conversations on like, we're trying to create this privacy wall, but we don't want the plants to grow into each other too much, but we also don't want spacing between them. So we were having these conversations on how do we create the proper distance and everything. And you really went through the species with the client and said, okay, well, these grow to be, between 2 and 3 feet in diameter. But obviously we're not planting them fully grown. So we have to like make these calculations, space them out correctly, and kind of go through all that. And you kind of guided us through the process on that. What's some, I'm just trying to, what would be a way that you would approach choosing these species to get these blooms in multiple seasons to like, what's your design approach to that? And then what does those conversations look like with the client if when we're having those? I wish I could recreate that when we were together because I had a lot of fun that day.
And that's information that I'm clueless. Like I don't know the names of the species. I don't know what is what. You know what I'm saying? Someone tells me like I have like a coworker. He has like he tell me like the name of the shrub. I was like, dude, I don't know what is that. I know like two, 3 species of trees and that's it. But how they behave, how like what the spacing is needed, what is perfect orientation for them when they bloom. Are they gonna have any flowers? Are they gonna have any like what you call it, like almost like that pollen things, you know what I'm saying, like
oh, you're talking about the cotton ones, the little balls of things that are like flying through the air.
Yeah. So I was actually in my previous
it's like little cotton balls, like literally they're like cotton balls and they're fluffy little things that are like floating around.
I have
Fred knows what I'm talking about.
So
hopefully
people pay for that.
No, I have like when I was,
you would want to avoid it.
When I was in Akron area, so we will have like some tall trees in the back, and it will be part of the season when these trees are actually almost having this like a yellow dust.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, and it was like I have to cover my car, and it was like a horrible things, but they provide beautiful shades and stuff and everything. But then, you have these like a drawbacks of it.
So I don't think Fred's gonna be like, "Hey, let's get a tree that's going to
create all these troubles." But no, it was like that's like a one thing, so like a education of the client of all these species. I'm currently working on a project. I was working with the landscape architect is from Pittsburgh area, and she told me like, you know what, I'm in Pittsburgh, can you go and just double check what our existing trees is? Like, oh yeah, I'm clueless. And then she told me like, use this app, whatever it is, the name of the app. So I take the photos of the trees and give me the name of it.
It's funny you said that because now because we always have to show when there's when there's mature trees on a site, and we're not allowed to cut them down, and if we do, we have to replace them. And now they're having us call out the species in some cases. The first time that I think it was the commission that asked us, but they're asking us to call out the species of these trees.
Yes. It was I was doing project in Westerville, and they have like a really strict restriction what species they need to be local because it's more sustainable. Right. And
they want to know the size too, and if you're planting new, what's the size when you're planting new? The caliper they ask for.
Before they just wanted to say, oh, you're putting in a tree in, great, show the icon.
And also size of the bed.
Right.
The size of the bed, because we're planting these like in islands between the parking spot. There needs to be certain coverage, so you don't have too much of the parking and like so. I'm throwing a lot of information now that you're probably familiar with, but like what is your approach? Like, do you guys see now these sustainable tendencies in a landscaping design when they tell you like, let's go with the local species. Let's don't try to do something exotic that is gonna need too much water, or like, hey, be careful. Like these leaves gonna have this tree is gonna have giant leaves, or they're gonna have like some side effects.
Well, Fred, what if I really want a palm tree in my yard in Columbus, Ohio?
Bring it in every year. I know that.
Yeah. There's actually there's a bar in Michigan that does that. Literally, they have palm trees. They bring it in every year.
Wow.
Yeah. So
we had a job that we would bring the plants in every year. They had an outdoor pool and an indoor pool, and so they wanted the palms and the banana trees right next to their pool. It was pretty fun. To answer some of your questions, so most of your municipalities are making you size your trees, and they have a lot of times they'll have a list of what trees can be planted, especially in the mow strip in the common areas. And they do have that lot coverage rule as well, where you can only have so much hardscaping or building space where it has to be green space.
Mm-hmm.
And some places are going more towards, your native species, but that's more of a personal preference, I think.
I see.
But when we talk to our clients about different sizes of plants, because Nick, you were asking about this, one of the things that we try and do is break down some of those plants. And most plants, we'll say a viburnum has flowers in the spring, good fall color typically, but there are all sorts of different sizes and all sorts of different kinds. And just knowing what space we have and how you want them to grow, we'll be able to select those specifically. And sometimes if it's a Viburnum carlisi, you might want to get another cultivar that's a little bit smaller. So you could say Viburnum carlisi spice girl or something like that, which would help you get to your size ratios. So we'll typically walk our clients through those options and see ultimately what size they want and
do you have actually, now you're throwing the names of these plants, do you also have like some kind of prints or something showing the pictures of these?
Like a cheat sheet almost.
Yes.
He does provide pictures and the names, which
nice.
Still can't pronounce. I just see
it's
the
all
letters.
Latin.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, now I have tough question for you. Give me the 5 top plants that you like prefer, that you usually recommend to the clients and that you follow. Why exactly.
And I'll add to it for this region specifically.
Well, sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it depends on the exposure, of course. If it's a sunny or a shady place, you'll have different plants. But typically, I'll just give you a list of, 5 plants that will work in just about any garden. Number one would be boxwood. I think those are typically pretty easy as long as they're resistant to blight. So there's a few out there that are more resistant than some of the other ones that could be hit with blight.
Yeah, you were telling me there are multiple species of boxwoods, and I thought that's news to me.
I don't even know how the boxwood looks like.
Boxwood is like a lower shrub, right?
Yeah, it stays green most of the year, I think, right? And it's very hardy.
Very hardy, small leaf evergreen. They have some that are, more of a cone shape, some that are, low that only get 2 by 2, and some that get larger, like 4 to 5 foot, possibly. So there are different varieties, and some don't do as well in Ohio as they do further south.
Okay, so that's number 1. Number 2.
Dwarf lilac, I think, is always a good plant to use. It can handle some shade. Typically, the more sun it has, the better it flowers. Super fragrant flower. You've probably heard of it. Purple.
Cool.
Dwarf crane's my favorite of them all.
Is it also like a low shrub, or a low bush, or?
I would say it's controlled at 4 to 5 foot, typically 4 to 5 foot wide.
Yeah.
Which I would consider on the smaller end, not dwarf, but like a smaller end shrub. Typically has red to orange fall color.
Oh, that's so cool.
And that's something I forgot to also take into account too, is the fragrance of the flowers.
Yeah.
Because now you're not just getting colors throughout each season, but you're getting
that beautiful fragrance. Yeah. I remember when I was in North Africa, they have it was like some crappy hotel we were staying in, but we were young, so we didn't give a damn about it. But I cannot forget that the fragrance of the jasmine.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that was a phenomenal, man. You see you're in Tunisia. You see everything is yellow because you're almost on the edge of the Sahara Desert. But then you have these beautiful jasmines in the corners of this building, and you cannot believe how much that contributes to the overall experience of your house, of any building, any architecture.
Sure. I know we also mentioned, we're talking about animal sanctuaries and butterfly sanctuaries. Do you help? Can you speak to that a little bit about how
we gotta get? We're on number 3.
You're number 3. You're
Save
pushing.
Your questions.
Exactly.
Save your question.
I have tons of questions too.
I'll answer the plant question first, and then we'll go to the butterfly gardens and things like that. So 3 other plants, just real quick, that I think will work really well in our area. 1, hydrangea, and it could be any of your varieties. Oak leaf, could be incredible.
That's what we're doing.
Annabelle. Yeah. I think they just, their flower holds on so long. It's, depending on the variety, it's going to be a couple months. And then you have your efflorescence that hangs out after that. So hydrangea is a great plant. I think viburnum, just because they're hardy and they're fragrant, or some of them are fragrant. Your Berkwoods, your Carlisais, your Jedis. But there's also, with the viburnum, you can get some that are semi-evergreen. So your prog viburnum or your leather leaf is another one. And, they all come in different sizes too. So some will be 16 foot tall, and then you'll have some that, are maintained at 4x4. And then I would say lastly, there's so many out there, but I would say a nice ornamental tree. Depending on what your ultimate goal is, I think a serviceberry, it is Ohio native, works really well. White flower in the spring.
Wow.
Autumn brilliance has a really good fall color. The berries are edible. So those
berries are edible.
Do they make a mess though? Do they make a mess? I don't like cleaning up my yard, Fred.
So the birds will eat them. So if you like birds, the birds will come and eat them.
Nice.
But you can eat them. Typically, the birds will get most of them. Occasionally they fall, but it's not a mess that's going to stain. And if it's in your yard, it's just going to, go back into the earth, essentially.
Yeah, exactly. It's just gonna nice.
I think you need one of these trees because the chirping of the birds brings that peaceful
calming.
I have bunch of them living in my attic above the garage. Then I have to clean it up, unfortunately. One day.
Do you just go sit up in the attic?
No, I'm just actually gonna go there in hazmat suit to see the mess what's happening up there. So I'm probably gonna plant the trees to kind of sway them to eat the berries so I can clean up the mess.
There you go.
But that's you're creating almost like an ecosystem. You know what I'm saying, around your house.
Yeah.
And I was another one of projects that was actually, it was like a research lab. They actually do all educated kids all about insects.
Mm-hmm.
And they actually created a pollinated garden. So they created a little garden in front of this a 2 story and a half lobby. That is also like an educational lobby, and you have all full glass, and right in front of it there is a little eyebrow that covers it, and there is this a long strip. They call it pollinated garden. So you actually see the pollination, and teaching the kids and younger kids coming in elementary school kids going through this space, because when we see the insects we all scared of them, they're just not that pretty, but then you actually understand the value of these little creatures.
And to speaking to your ecosystem comment, and your butterfly comment, insects in general are something that you want to promote somewhat, right?
Yep.
There's insects that cause problems.
Certain types of insects, yes.
Yeah. Mosquitoes. I still don't know the purpose of mosquitoes in this world, but yeah.
Fred, are there any plants that keep mosquitoes away?
There are.
It's a good
they are.
Yeah, I'm going to write this down.
There's one, it's called calamint, that is supposed to help with that. And I was just reading of something else that helps as well. I can't remember what it is off the top of my head, but I know calamint is supposed to help with that.
Wow. Yeah. So that's cool. That's cool to know.
Nino needs a white flowering berry tree and some calamint.
Yeah, some calamint in the backyard. Yeah. Yeah.
I believe calamint's a pollinator, considered a pollinator too. The bees are all over it all summer long. And
that's so
really
cool.
Good.
Nice. Yeah. So did you have any projects that the client asked you I would like to have create a micro ecosystem here that I'm gonna have pollinations, I'm gonna have all these things happening.
Concern for the environment and all the little insects floating around. Is there been conversations like that you've had with clients?
For sure. Actually, I think the client who referred me to you guys. We did a pollinator garden for her, one of her duplexes.
Wow.
What is a pollinator? Yeah, what is a pollinator garden exactly? Is it just for the bees and that's it?
No, so it just depends on what the client's perception of what that is. But if you want plants that the bees, will help keep bees around, and so certainly that, but also different stages of the insect's life,
butterflies. Yep. Yeah.
They eat different things during different stages. So you might have swamp milkweed for part of that garden, and they might have Asclepias tuberosa, which is a smaller version of it, for another piece of the garden. Just depends on ultimately what you're trying to what you're trying to do with that pollination.
Yeah. I think who you're trying to attract, during what time of the year, sort of thing. essentially. Kind of that's what you're saying. Like if it's a butterfly or if it's a bee or a hummingbird or whatever, right? Yeah, like what animal you're trying to attract.
Hummingbirds, yeah.
Oh yeah, that's something we missed, Fred. I need some hummingbird attractors.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember asking you like what's an elevated look, because, and then we actually kind of got into hardscapes from there because you really are able to now bring that luxury high-end feel with these patio spaces, built-in kitchens.
Oh yeah. My wife is dreaming about it for our house. Yeah.
Yeah, I would love to have that. I don't have.
Outdoor kitchen.
It is an investment. I will
It
tell
is
you
an
that.
investment. Yes, it is, but good investment. Honestly, I think it's gonna bring the value and the overall feel of the backyard because you have to go outside.
Fred, when someone tells you they want an outdoor kitchen, do you start with a budget? Because I know that, like, how do you go about designing these spaces, and what does that typically look like?
Well, anytime that we can get a budget up front, that is super helpful. And sometimes we'll be able to tell you what you could possibly get within that budget, or if that budget's not going to be enough to make it worth your while to do that. Appliances are pretty expensive, especially even like the mid-grade appliances are expensive. And there are grills out there for the same grill you could pay, we'll say at Lowe's or Home Depot, one price, like we'll say $500 to $800. And then the next level up is really in that $1,500 range. And then we just purchased a grill for somebody. It's like 32-inch grill, and it's $7,000. So there's so many different features and things. And a lot of the higher end grills, like that one has ceramic tile in it to help so you don't have grease flare-ups and things like that. But
is it integrated into stone, or is it freestanding?
That one's a built-in, so it would slide onto a countertop. A lot of times what we'll do is we'll have our actual grill stand, whether it's being made out of block and stone or tile or whatever it is, and then a lot of times we'll have a granite countertop on top of it, and then your grill slides right on.
Awesome. I mean, that's a reasonable price for such a Denver. You know what I'm saying?
Nino, why don't you pick me one up?
It's $7,000 just for the grill.
Just for the grill. Only the grill. That's understandable. Yeah. It's very expensive materials and not easy to build.
I mean, I would expect to pay what I'd pay for a high-end kitchen, which is probably $70,000 or $80,000 if I wanted to. Like, that would be a good starting point if we're going to do something that's worth doing.
Yeah,
would you agree with me, Fred?
It depends on the size of your house and how large like your patio space would be. I mean, we do that sort of build all the time. I mean, we had one job that had almost $40,000 just in appliances. And some of the appliances were, built-in refrigeration, built-in heating drawers, that sort of thing.
So do you also installing any canopies or trellises or any sun protections or rain protection, whatever it is?
We do. So we're on 4 projects right now. One has a 3-season room. 2 of them have metal. Well, 2 of them have the metal structure pergolas. We are actually going to be building one of those ourselves. And then the other one has a pergola, a wooden pergola.
So you're actually building all these pergolas by yourselves, or you're just purchasing them out?
Like a kit?
Well, most of them we build, like if it's a cedar pergola, we're building that by hand typically.
Wow, that's cool.
A lot of the metal ones, like Structure's a company who, I think it's a franchise actually, who build out these metal structures that have the louvers on them and lights and fans and that sort of thing, drop down screens. So that we'll be building our first one of those probably in 90 days once it's that's how long it takes for them to build and manufacture it.
I've been seeing a ton of it just like it all hit me in the face, seems like, but these high-end aluminum covered porches with the louvers on top with a remote or a button in the and they open up to let the sunlight in. If it rains, they close. It seals everything off. Like, they're pretty slick.
They are slick, but they're expensive too. But they're pretty slick. They really
the prices on them really range too. So, and I can give you an idea. The one that we're getting ready to do just the pieces and parts and not labor to install is $89,000, I believe.
My goodness.
And then some of the other ones, like there's a brand called Hanso. They take a long time to manufacture theirs, but theirs is much more reasonable. It depends on if you catch it on a sale, but you could pay $8,000 for the material. And then Pergola's another one that has a quick turnaround time. they're just above that, I would say.
Yeah, I would say there's commercial grade and then there's probably residential
Yeah,
grade.
I'll probably stick with the cedar one. I'm gonna need it because the reason I ask is because I'm actually planning to. I'm probably gonna have to talk to Fred because I have decent sized backyard, but my house is in a inside corner, so I have actually in my backyard I actually see 6 to 7 houses. So, which I love my neighbors, but I don't love them that much, so they all staring at me. So I'm actually thinking some combination between the privacy and the shading.
I thought of a question. Fred, do you from what Nino's talking about? So, like, we offer design consultations. We'll pay a small fee, whatever, a few $100, 350, I think.
Yep.
Nick will go out to the site, have a conversation with the client on the site. Do you do anything like that, like up front?
Yes.
Do you have like an initial conversation in Nino's backyard, like if Nino wants to hire you?
And how much do you charge for these consultations?
Right now, we're not charging anything for our
I
initial visit.
was gonna say you got a customer.
Yes, he does actually. I need to do something with my backyard.
But our initial visit, we don't charge, mainly because everything that we're doing is from referrals. And because of that, they already have been pre-qualified, I guess, in a lot of ways, so that we can, once we come out to site, we can have an organic conversation about the things that they actually want and whether this relationship's going to, fit for both people, right? Because not all designers are going to fit for everybody.
Yes,
that's just how
and I like that logic of the phasing. You know what I'm saying? You can actually almost develop the plan to the client. Let's do what is my priority number one. For me, it's gonna be the privacy. You know what I'm saying? Privacy for my I have a decent size the backyard, like a deck that I would like to sit on it and eat on it. I love eating outside without people staring at me. So
people just stare at you, Nino, because you're weird.
No, I know that, and I have an accent too, so it's understandable. But I like that idea that you can actually almost develop the phasing plan and then tell us. In a long run, if I don't have a budget now to have everything at the first day, but you can almost develop the phasing plan and tell maybe your first goal is to do this.
Yep.
Maybe instead of trying to buy this expensive full-size plant, maybe you plant something smaller for this size, and in 2-3 years you're gonna have your full privacy.
It's also more realistic because if we're building a structure,
yeah.
It's harder to phase a building,
yes,
like with all these things. Like typically you want to do everything at once,
yes,
from a cost standpoint, because when you do phase things out, it actually gets more expensive in architecture.
Yeah.
In landscaping, I'm sure there's some similarities, but you're able to just work your way down on it, you know what I mean? I don't think it's impacting the way you live necessarily as much as...
and another things and Fred can actually answer all these questions, with that privacy I'm looking for. I also can, because you saw my backyard, there is no single tree in it, so there is a lot of wind going on. There is direct exposure to that western sun that just catch it in a corner and hit you directly in the head.
You have a huge lot and you don't use it because it's just
It's all open.
Open
and,
grass
and in a corner,
lots of eyes on it.
And in a corner, there's giant trampoline, and all neighboring kids are jumping on it. So, I mean, I loved it. I love the atmosphere, having the tons of kids in my area. I have no problem with that. My kids are happy with that. But also, I have moments of my own. You remember my Zen garden back in Canal Fulton?
I do. I miss that.
If I can create something, at least 10% of it. That'll be good.
It's gonna be tough.
I know, but it was at least some kind of. So I'm probably gonna be talking to you, Fred.
Nino, you need to come over to ArcFluence full time.
Yeah.
And we're gonna build you a new house in the woods, and that's where we're gonna create your Zen garden.
That sounds good.
In Hawking.
Yeah, in Hawking. But I'll be talking to you. So it's almost when we're talking about. You probably have a client and tells you stories like this, and you can pull out straight out from your head you probably going on a site looking at you're probably gonna need this and that should be in reasonable budget range. Is that kind of accurate statement?
Typically, one of the biggest things I think that we try and do is listen to what our clients' needs and wants are, but then there's questions that are asked with that, like for screening, do you want it to be evergreen? Do you want it to be deciduous? Do you want it to be flowering? How tall do you want it to get?
Mm-hmm.
You know,
It's
questions so you
Yeah.
so
Yeah,
you
like
get all information.
yeah, for
Yeah.
me, like I have a road in my backyard. So like if I'm doing screening, I want it as tall as possible.
evergreen.
Yeah. And year round. So it's like evergreen is like probably what I need to go with, you know.
Yeah.
And fast growing. Like
Yeah.
green giant arbor.
Exactly, fast growing. That's like a one thing. But also, I don't want to like build. Now you're giving me options, flowers and stuff. So maybe there is like I build this like a huge wall, like evergreens, and then in the corner I have something, flowers that maybe open the views, then close the views.
Well, you have a big yard, so
I do
you
have-
probably want to put that screening towards the perimeter, and then you're not going to want to have too many flowers there because you're not going to smell.
Yeah.
You're not going to smell
Well, the
that.
flowering would be closer to the where they're hanging out.
Yeah, where the spaces are activated.
I'll be
closer to
calling
the
you,
house.
Fred. I'll be calling you for sure. Yes.
Well, I'm curious too, like about Nino mentioned about like financial stuff. Like I know in architecture, there's been some periods of crazy fluctuation, right?
Yes.
Be it supply chain or other stuff like that. Obviously, like some plantings and stuff like that are grown locally, but they're shipping in probably fertilizers and other things to grow those plants initially. Has the market been pretty stable, or have you guys also seen like
Excellent
in the
question.
landscaping industry like all these fluctuations? Like everyone else has experienced.
So especially from after COVID, prices on lumber they skyrocketed.
Mm-hmm.
So, and they're still up there too. Like cedar especially is pretty expensive right now. But for the most part, like just individual plants haven't really, I guess the trees have gone up more. I think there was a stop in growing trees for a while. But like shrubs, they're still around the same price. I mean, it all goes up a little bit each year, right? But nothing crazy. And really it just depends on where you're getting your products. So if they're being shipped from overseas, like some of the stone that we use, that cost has gone up.
Oh yeah.
Quite a bit, just from the shipping cost. And then like if all these tariffs, I'm wondering what's going to happen with that. If that's going to raise cost as well. But it hasn't really fluctuated that much since COVID, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Now, do you have like a care package plan, or like let's say I don't have a green thumb, but you've said, Nick, this needs watered
Exactly.
every 2 weeks, or you integrate the watering system, and you're like, all you need to do is push this button every 2 weeks. But what happens if that goes wrong? The foolproof plan goes wrong, and Shirley dies, my favorite shrub.
Did I even name it?
Good question. We have a watering plan that we give our homeowners after a planting installation,
Mm-hmm.
and we show them that ahead of time. And we call it the 5-4-3-2-1 plan, that you water 5 days a week, 4 days a week, 3 days a week, 2 days, and then 1, and as needed. So if we were to plant this spring, your plants have the best, if we planted now, we'd be in some dormancy. As long as we don't get frost, everything would be fine. But you would have a plan in place to kind of wean them off of the water, especially like if it's a late summer planting and they've been watered twice a day at the nursery, going from that, being put into the ground, and then they're going to need water and then time to acclimate. But so that's where we start. We do offer a 1-year warranty on all our plants, but barring abuse, neglect, and severe acts of nature. So
Exactly.
if you're not watering it, then it's not really covered. If you're overwatering it, that's the other thing. Part of our watering plan explains how much to water each plant and where to water it. So you want to water it at the base. Trees and shrubs we do for a minute to a minute and a half. Or trees we do a minute to minute and a half. Shrubs we do things 30 to 45 seconds, and then anything in the 1 gallon or small size, it's like 15 to 20 seconds.
I mean, this is so cool information. I haven't even have a clue about that. I don't know, like how long you? I'll probably overwater all my plants.
I was gonna say I think I'm overwatering everything.
yeah.
You guys,
which
you
is
guys
bad.
You need an app or a professional.
Yeah.
We need help.
We definitely need. That's what I'm telling you. I'm clueless regarding
I
landscaping.
feel like I just stand there with a hose until
Same thing.
until I get tired, and then I walk.
Same thing.
Yeah, on to the next one.
Yeah.
I just try and make it as simple, because a lot of times, like if you have kids, the kids are out watering,
Yes.
right? And they can just count to 10 or whatever it is and move to the next plant. Like I said, I watered plants for 5 cents a piece. when I was a kid, when Dad had nursery stock at, his farm there. So
Wow.
it just make it simple.
So that's what we need to do. We just need to get a nickel for and water 10,000 plants.
Yeah,
and then
exactly.
after that, we'll be pros.
Yeah, pros,
Yeah.
exactly. That's how it is. I see really beautiful, like the sculpture behind you on a wall. Are you also doing some kind of interior stuff with your work?
We purchased this off of Etsy, but there are some folks that do that type of thing. Plantopy in Columbus. They do a great.
Yeah, we work with them quite a bit. That's your company logo, isn't it? So you incorporate.
It's not. It's similar to it.
Okay.
But it's not.
I thought that was really cool.
It's close enough,
Yeah.
We need something in the office to brighten it up a little bit at least.
There you go.
Cool.
So we can help with that.
Yeah, you can help with that. You can help us with the exterior, exactly. With my backyard.
Fred, we've been talking for about 45 minutes here. I guess let's kind of towards the end. What advice would you leave? What would you give potential clients who are looking to do the best landscaping for them? Like, what advice would you give to them? What considerations should they be thinking about? What questions should they be asking their professionals when they're starting this journey of designing their landscaping? And what would be most beneficial to overall in terms of, like, the things that come to mind for me is like maintenance, cost, fragrance, time, the experience of it all.
Yeah.
So, I guess make sure that whoever you're working with has done their research. Make sure that they're verified by somebody else.
Yeah.
That's one of the big things, because we're so based off of referral, right? Make sure you know who you're working with, that they're looking for your best interest, whether it's in the design process, whether it's in the installation process, or picking out your plants. I think that's where you start, and make sure they're providing you with information, about your plants and about the different products that are out there, because most people don't really know what all is out there. And there's so much out there, whether it's stone or tile or artificial turf that you're looking at, different types of grills. Just make sure they're well versed in all those sort of things, and you feel comfortable with them. I think those are the big things. We're fortunate that we get to work with I get to work with so many different landscape architects and designers in general, because we'll do installations of our own and designs of our own. We're also doing other architects' designs, because people come to us, other architects or landscape designers will come to us and say, hey, I have this project, would you like to bid on it? And then, because we've developed a relationship and they trust our installation process and our pricing and that sort of thing. So I get to see so many different things and different styles of landscape design that I'm pretty lucky that I have those opportunities and get to see other people's processes as well.
I won't say just lucky. I think what you say, like the majority of your business is referral. I will say that's actually your quality that you're providing to the an experience and a quality, and especially inherited that from your father. So that doesn't come like just by a pure luck. That goes with the hard work and reputation that you probably built through the years.
Well, Dad's business was all built off of relationships, right? Whether it's with clients or your vendors or other professionals in the industry, and that's the approach that we've taken as well. And training up our people. One of the big things is it's hard to find people.
It is.
Talked about. And developing relationships with subcontractors and making sure that I guess that everybody is working as a team is something that's really hard. We have in-house training for our company, so
that's cool.
One of our staff put together a training program for everyone so that they can log in, especially if you're doing something newer or haven't done some of the new guys, so they can log in and understand how to do masonry block or whatever. So that's another thing that we try and provide our team, so that we're always trying to get better at those sort of things.
Cool.
That's awesome. I love the whole relationship piece, and I wish I would have had someone really grind that into my head when I was younger. It's something now that I see that there's huge
value
and all my mentors and my successful colleagues, it's a repeating factor that I see. Whereas, like, even on our on our podcast with your mentor, who you knew since you were
Bill. Yeah.
I mean, he's talking about
Mr. Griffith.
Yeah, Mr. Griffith.
Yeah.
We're not trying to sell a project. We're trying to build a relationship with the client
Exactly.
for life, right?
Yeah.
So that's cool. And again, Fred just reiterated that, whereas you do a good job here, because we were looking at your website, Fred, and I think did you just launch a new website? Or
No, we're getting ready to launch a website.
Okay.
We actually took our website down about 5 years ago. So because we just didn't really need it and we wanted to revamp. And now we're actually working through that process now. But our there's a competitor of mine that's in Hilliard here that is Inspired Something Landscape. So you may have seen theirs, but our Instagram is what we're using right now to show people, what kind of work we do. But we'll have a website up hopefully in the next three months.
And that's actually that's great. That's great news. But it's impressive that he hasn't had a website in 5 years, and yet he's still having all these.
That just tells you about services he's providing. But
it is interesting that his resume is the house down the street.
Yes.
This beautiful house down the street. Like, that's my resume. Go look. I love listening to Gary Vaynerchuk and Alex Hormozis and those type of media giants who talk about business. And at the end of the day, they're about 5 to 10% of the workforce are unicorns. Now, we all want that person who can do it all and is hungry, loves what they do, wants to work past the, like, go home, relax.
Yeah,
like they're here to work. It's such a small percentage. So
such a small percentage.
Having that business culture, creating the websites, having these
and
great
trainings,
projects, and all that together to attract that top 10% of the talent is super important.
And I'm sorry taking too much time, but I have experience and I say like as Generation Z. I don't think that all of them, because I have a couple of Gen Zs working, and some of them like when it's 5 o'clock. Out of the door, but other one like a small percentage is like he will stay and he will ask, Nino, do you still need some help? Like he will I will work from home, and I'll be 10 o'clock p.m. I'm still working, and he will text me at 10 p.m. Do you still need some help? Like, thank you, brother. I really appreciate that.
Yep. They're getting the raise.
Yeah, honestly, no.
Not
but
Johnny,
also so passionate. He wants to learn. He wants I'm doing these exterior details, and he just wants to learn.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I was like, you know what, Tim? I love you, man. You're always gonna be on my team. So, and you know what I'm saying. So that's how difficult. I would like this message, and that Fred mentioned also. I would like to convey to the younger generation to see there is still huge value in a passion, in a talent, in a quality of work and dedication.
And I think more importantly, whatever you are interested in, if you love something, you can make money as a trash man.
Yes.
You can make money as a doctor. You can make money doing whatever you want.
Whatever you want.
So if you're passionate about it, and you love it, just like Fred thought he wanted to not do landscaping, but
then he realized,
I'm born for it. It's in my blood.
And you made a life of it, and years later you can see the results of putting in the time and becoming an expert.
And spend more time with his kids.
Yeah.
And I understand that, because I'm spending more time at work, less time with thank God, with my wife. But man, spending time with your kids, starting your own business in 2009.
No, Nino, you were a lucky man.
Yeah, I am lucky, man. Yes. Well, Fred.
One thing too that I'll mention is that when you have someone who does love that job, they will stay longer and work. Seemingly harder, but it's them enjoying it.
Yes.
And I hired Shelly in at the office as HR because that's what her background is, and I soon found out that she really enjoyed designing, and she had never done it before. So now I've trained her in CAD and shown her.
Oh, that's so cool.
How to do that, and she's working through designs and presentations and doing a great job at it because she loves it.
That is awesome.
Right people,
exactly.
For the right position.
Yeah. At Nino's rant about the younger generation did spark one other question for me. Technology-wise, what are the things that you guys are using? Has there been any image generation software, like AI stuff coming into landscape design at all? Or is it like you're still primarily like these 3D views and CAD, and that's like the thing that you're in mostly when you're doing your design work?
So we're designing out of Dynoscapes, which is a CAD-based software. And then if we're doing 3D, we'll usually like take it into a SketchUp type program and then put it through or something like that. We were just having this conversation because I don't want to get behind the AI bubble. Because, technology just comes up on us so fast, and then the older you get, the harder it is to learn. So we're actually working through some ideas of how do we stay ahead of it and what can we do to educate ourselves moving forward. I think it's one of the things that, it's going to change the world, and it's going to change just about every industry. If you can have a CAD program AI program render it for you in 15 seconds versus 15 hours, that's a huge difference. I don't know if I love it. I started out drawing things on a drafting board by hand when I was 17 doing designs for that, and then slowly integrated into CAD in college, and even then it was like so new for the landscape industry, really. But yeah, so we're trying to get ahead of the AI bubble for sure.
That's good.
Yeah, who knows? In 20 years, you might have not just help on the design side, you might have help installing trees with artificial intelligence.
Oh, that's gonna happen.
I don't know about that.
Maybe watering.
Watering, yeah.
Maybe watering, yeah.
Irrigation system's already there to do
Yeah,
that.
exactly. Yeah. Wow, that's awesome, Fred. It was like, I think I can talk to you like for hours, but eventually we are at the time.
Yeah,
it's basically it. We're at about our hour max.
Well, Fred, where can people find you?
Exactly.
Or where will you mentioned social media, so no website. What's your handle for social media?
At Inspired Spaces Landscape.
All right.
And then would just reach out to us on there, or you can call us direct. You can find us on the internet.
Yeah, I'm gonna get phone number from Nick.
Yeah, I was gonna say Nino will get your phone number directly.
Exactly.
And
So
we'll have Danny put that in the notes below as well.
Yeah.
Fred, thanks so much. We look forward to working on more projects with you. Again, we just like chatting about all the related industries to architecture and design, and how we can make our lives better.
Yeah, and it was a pleasure talking to you, and I won't be surprised if we call you again on another podcast just to chat a little bit more about landscaping. It's almost like a field that you can talk for hours about.
We focus more on like residential stuff. We
Yeah,
didn't get into any
commercial,
corporate.
I might even want to do a showcase episode, Fred, where we go through like one of our projects together about why we did what we did.
Yes.
And have some imagery.
Yeah, that will be good, and have something like more like a presidential, so people can also visualize it.
Perfect.
Yeah.
It'd be great. Just let me know. Have fun.
Thanks, Fred. We'll talk to you later.
Take care, man. Bye.
This has been the ArcFluence Podcast. As always, you can get more information and additional content on arcfluence.com. Please subscribe on the platform of your choice and leave us a review. We'd love to hear from you.